Alright guys, 5.4, which is property of midsegments, we're going to look at two types of midsegments. The first one we're looking at is midsegment of a triangle. And that's a segment that connects the midpoint of two sides of a triangle. Now midpoint means, remember that it's exactly in the middle, so these two sides would be congruent. Now your midpoint is not going to be exactly across on the other side. It's going to be maybe a little different because these two sides then are congruent. Okay, so there we see a mid-segment. Split the two sides into split the two sides into congruent parts. If I do it here, I have my midpoint here, and then I can pick one of the sides, I have my midpoint here, and now we have mid-segments all over our triangle. Okay, maybe I'm going to use the bottom one here and the side one here. Okay, so we have a variety of mid-segments. We can do them here also. Okay, oops, those do not look congruent. The two side parts that you're splitting need to be congruent. Alright, let's talk about some properties, or you could say about midsegments. If we have a triangle here, and this one in this case is an isosceles triangle, so we split it here and here with a midsegment, and then we put a point here, and so midpoint to midpoint. We have three midsegments of a triangle, and it's actually going to break this up into four congruent triangles. Okay, these don't mean that these triangles are equilateral or equal angular, it just means that they're congruent. So there means that all the sides are going to be the same length, and it means that the angles are all going to be the same. So if I take this top triangle here and pick it up, or flip it down, it's going to match this triangle down here, or one of the two on the side. Okay, so a couple important things about midsegments is each midsegment in the triangle is parallel to the third side. Okay, so I can say that this side is parallel to this side. And I could say that for any of my midsegments. Each midsegment is, and here's a new thing, it's half of the third side. Okay, so it's half as long as the third side. So if my third side that it's parallel to is 22, my midsegment is 11 long. And we're going to look at an example with that in a little bit. Let's talk about midsegments of a trapezoid. A midsegment of a trapezoid is a segment that connects two midpoints of the non-parallel sides. Now remember, we have a couple types of trapezoids we can be looking at. I can look at isosceles trapezoids, which are on the left, where my two legs are congruent, or we have just regular trapezoids on the right, which is where my two non-parallel sides are not congruent. But it still follows the same idea, that my midsegment occurs at my midpoint. So these two are congruent, and these two are congruent. Okay. Or same here, same idea here. We have our midpoint and our midpoint. All right. A trapezoid has only one midsegment. We can't draw more because it only connects the sides of the non-parallel sides. So let's talk about a midsegment of a trapezoid is, again, it's parallel to the bases. And a midsegment of a trapezoid is, now here's the new thing, half the average of the bases. So what that means is we have base 1 and base 2. My midsegment is, the little formula that you're going to want to keep in mind is base 1 plus base 2 divide by 2. That's what this says here. It's my midpoint form, or midsegment formula. Okay, and the same thing goes for my non-isosceles trapezoid. It's base 1 plus base 2 divide by 2, and that's going to get the length of my midsegment. So let's use some of these. So let's start off by talking about the angles. Now, our lines here and here are parallel. So we can use corresponding angles to know that if this one down here is 47, this one up here is also 47 based on based on parallel line properties and them being corresponding, okay? So if I see my triangle up here, I can find my third angle because I can take 180 and minus my 63 and my 47, and I'm left with 70. So that makes this angle 70. But because of parallel lines, I can transfer down my 70 here and my 63 because those ones are going to be following the corresponding angles. So if those two angles are going to be those, then this one is 47 degrees, and we can transfer over my 70 degrees. I can bring down my 63 because, remember, it creates triangles that are going to be not equal angular, but congruent. Okay. Then I can find my missing angles by taking 180 minus like my 70 and my 63 here, and I can see that this is 47. Again, we can say that this is 70 and this is 63 because these are all going to follow that idea that it breaks it into 4 congruent triangles. Okay. Mid-segments of my triangles are at the midpoint. So if my side up here is 8, it means my side down here is 8. And if my side here is 12, this one's 12. If here is 14, I'm carrying over, this is also 14. Now, I need to find the measurements for my inside, for the little red triangle on the inside. Well, keep in mind that mid-segments are half the measure of the base that it's parallel to. So let's say I'm going to find the distance of this mid-segment right here. Okay, so it's parallel to this one. So it's half of that measure. So if that's 8 and 8, that's 16. That makes this one also 8. Okay, if this side is going to be 28 total, that makes this side here 14 because it's half of it. If this side here is 24, this one is 12. Okay, so I just found all my angle measures and all my distance measures. So just a few things that were marked already on my triangle. Let's look at the idea about this with the trapezoid. Let's say that I know that this base is 24 and this base is 14. Okay, and I want to find my midsegment. Well, I'm going to add my two bases and divide by 2, and that's going to find me my midsegment. So 14 plus 28 and divide by 2, that's going to give me a midsegment of 21. Okay. Sometimes maybe we're told a base and a midsegment, and we need to find the other base. So let's say that this was 18, and we need to find now my other base. We're still going to set it up in the same formula. 24 plus x over 2, because that's my two bases, equals my midsegment. So 24 plus x equals, how did I get the 36? Well, I times both sides by 2 to eliminate that. Okay, and now I can just go ahead and subtract over my 24, and I get x equals 12. So I find my other base. So use that idea about my midsegment is half the average of my bases. Let's talk to, these lines are all going to be parallel to each other. So if this angle here is 72, that means this angle is also 72. If they tell me that this angle is 27, I know that this angle is 27. And I have trapezoids, so my base angles are the same. And I don't even know, that's not going to get me to 360. But you get the idea that the angles, we can find them, they're going to transfer over. All right, here's your assignment for today on section 5.4.